Hey everybody, this is Scott Bowman. I am the creator behind Idea Brickworks, and welcome to another episode of Brick Building Together Apart. This one's going to be a little unusual. For a little while, Peter and I have been talking about maybe doing a series of videos related to using Studio, stud.io, and that also got me an idea to do a panel discussion where we would answer questions from people that are either new to Studio or super users of Studio. And because Studio is a program that many of us use to simulate and build our creations, design our creations, our Lego creations. So it's a CAD software, a computer-aided design software, and it's also vertically integrated into Bricklink so that we can use it to make instructions, renderings, and to help us buy our brick. So today we are joined by some of our regulars that are part of this Brick Building Together Apart. And so I'm going to let each one talk about themselves a little bit and why they are part of this program and what they use Studio for. And then I'm going to give about a 15-minute introduction to Studio because we did have a few questions related to why Studio. Why do we find it a good program to use if you are into this hobby, or some would call disease, for what we do. So with that, I'm going to first introduce my partner in crime, Mr. Jones from the UK.
Hey everyone, thank you very much, Scott. Some of you already know me, but my name is Sam, and not to be confused with Mr. B down the bottom. I'm going to admit I'm still fairly new to Lego and probably considered a rookie. However, I have come on a long way. Scott got me back into it by showing me his, not a euphemism, his 35,000 brick 12.5-foot Saturn V rocket. And said, here, help me build this. This will be a great introduction to Lego for you. I was like, yeah, okay, you say so. So from that, Scott got me back into it. I've used Studio myself to design things that I like here in the UK. One of the things that I like I designed was Red British telephone box. I actually built this when my partner was up, and she was sat right next to me, and she was going, "It's a little crazy." But yes, I used it to design this, and I've got many other designs which are coming up a little bit costly at the moment. And for me, Studio is just an easy tool to get to know, and just easy for me to work with. Do you want me to show some of my designs, Scott, or do you want to save that for a bit later?
Let's say that for a bit later. So,
okay, then.
Mr. B.
Yeah, so I'm going on 3 years of using Studio now. I first started doing it because I got into the whole Lego space thing and then wanted to do my own thing. And I was like, okay, well, I'm going to build the little launch tower for the Falcon 9. Oof. An older version of this behemoth of a thing. And then I was like, okay, well, then let me build the fixed service structure. And then I was like, what would it look like if I built the entire launch pad? And 3 years later, here we are, and I'm on version 3, and it's a good tool to design something without having to buy all the bricks up front.
And how many bricks would you have to buy if you would do your?
At least 130,000 at a minimum.
In other words,
that's not including the space. It wouldn't fit in my apartment.
Right.
What's the length on it now? Like 18 feet?
It's 20 feet long by 9 feet wide.
You know, we would almost have to build it in the main assembly building down at the kitchen.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah.
Cool. Mr. Chambers
Oh, that's me.
in his new home, his new dig.
Yeah, I'm finally getting unpacked here. Been at the new house for about a month now. Anyway, my name is Joe Chambers. If you haven't seen me here before, you're a lucky one. I got back into Lego about 3 years ago with the Saturn V kit. I needed to decompress from engineering school, and from there I discovered that there was something called LDD, and I started modifying. It started out as a modification of Valerie's launch umbilical tower for the Saturn V, and it just wasn't enough for me. And then some kid at what is it called? Bricks and Minifigs introduced me to Studio, and since then I've been using Studio to make my designs, so I can order parts to do test builds and prototypes. I use Studio to make my instruction sets. I'll use some other programs to do some graphics and commentary and stuff, but mostly I've been able to kind of beat up Studio enough to get it to do what I want it to do. So I've been using Studio almost exclusively for probably a year and a half, 2 years now, and it's a very interesting and robust program.
Yeah.
Once you learn how to use it.
Well, and I think that's like anything else. But first, a disclaimer: none of us work for Bricklink. None of us work for Lego. All of us buy brick from Bricklink. Some of us buy a lot of brick from Bricklink. I have a whole, but it's part of my business. So I design and distribute and build Lego kits. The most famous one being the Micro Saturn V. So I use Studio to do everything from the beginning, conceptualizing, although I still use physical brick a lot to test out different methods of connecting, how strong something is, whatnot. Then I go into purchasing that brick, also making instructions, and then connecting it into Bricklink and wanted list. So what I thought I'd do first is I'm going to go through some of the very high points of Studio as I understand them and how I use them. And one of the other reasons that I want to do this show is I've learned so much from Joe and Mr. B. It seems like every single show, something comes up, I'll express some dissatisfaction or frustration, and then one of the two of them will say, well, duh, you do this or that or the other thing, and then it makes my life easier. So that's one of the reasons. Now, hopefully, if you're watching this, if you're watching the recording, please put comments in. If you see something that all of us could learn from, we'd love to hear from it. Ask your questions, please. And if we can't get to them, we will then bank them for part 2 when we can have Peter. Peter is at his business, so he wasn't able to join us today. So we are going to kind of bank any questions related, I guess, broader questions into rendering, animations. He does some incredible animations, and part designer. Again, he is kind of the master about making parts that have never existed before. And so part designer is another part of Bricklink that he'll talk about some. So with that, I will share my screen and I will give a little bit of. So this particular model is a new kit that's going to be coming out hopefully as soon as we get the stickers. Peter and I are working together on this, and this is kind of new to the world. He basically got this finished yesterday. We had an update. So this is showing what the stickers are going to look like. So let me just get in a little bit on that, and you can start to see that this is a case of taking a model using Part Designer to put the stickers on it, and this will now allow us to do renderings that show the finished model. And as I put together instructions, I can show where the sticker placement is supposed to be. And again, this is kind of Peter. But let me introduce you to the program as it is. So I've opened up Bricklink. This happens to be 2.0, and I keep it up to date. In fact, there was just, or I just had an upgrade or a update yesterday, I think. Saw an update, but it's still 2 point something at this point. You'll see that it's got some of the same patterns of most CAD systems in that it's got the top toolbar. You can select parts. You've got hinges. You clone, copy. You can hide bricks. You can do different things to that. Now, this particular model is fairly complex. It's got a lot of submodels, and again, not getting so deep into it, but submodels allow you to move around quicker in a model. If you think about the launch platform, some 200,000 bricks, you have to have submodels, or you just can't even walk around in the model.
Right, Scott, Sam, Mr. B and I both laughed when you said that this was a kind of a complex model.
That's true. Okay. Complex for me.
Okay. All right.
Okay. Now, so I've actually opened up into this submodel, but you'll see that we've got the different shapes that you can select. I happen to have blue as the color that's selected. You can get plates, tiles, plate round, brick round. Again, all the different shapes. Now, you do have to kind of know the way Bricklink names things, which in general follows Lego, but sometimes they may have a different number. They tend to use the element number, then they go into the different colors. Whereas Lego, the Lego group has one number that expresses both the element and the color for those independent. So you can select an element, you can place it in your model, and be able to then see it and connect it to other things. So in its core, it's a way to take brick that you don't own in colors that you may not have. In fact, you can invent colors if you want to, but we try not to. You do have the ability to turn on and off printed brick. So as Bricklink adds in more stickers, let me see if I can find one. I'm sure there's one with blue in it. Come on. There's got to be some. Or did I just turn it off?
Well, and while you're looking for that, I'll make the comment that you can also get in trouble because Studio will let you do any part, any color, even if those parts are discontinued or have never been made in that color. It's available in Studio. So I learned the hard way, after building something that, that part may exist in Studio, but not in real life.
It also might cost $100.
Yeah.
Because I finally found one. So like here is a 1x1 with the number on it. But you can toggle that on and off. I don't use very many printed tiles or printed bricks, so I tend to turn it off. So again, it gives you a lot of flexibility. You can also, with a little, help me guys, where is the don't show a brick that isn't the right, if it doesn't exist? It's up in
Should
color.
be on the top right, I think.
Yeah, go into color palette.
Mm-hmm.
There you go.
Into the color. Yep.
So at the bottom here, this, and again, most of us have this clicked. And so because we don't want to build with something that doesn't exist. So you can hide an unavailable color. Now, I do know people that will put something on Lego Ideas. They might actually turn this off, because if you're proposing something to Lego, to the fan community and trying to get votes, it's real easy to get Lego to make a color out of an element. Making a new element's always going to be tough to justify in a kit. So that's usually the first thing you need to make sure that you can make sure and find that there aren't colors of that particular brick. So the other thing to know too is you can select a brick, in this case, this cone. And if you go back to that color palette, now it will show you two things. One is all the colors that part's available in. That's very, very useful, because sometimes I need an element, I grab it, I don't have to decide right away what color it may need to be. I can just pull it in. Then if I wanted to say I want the red one, it is easy to make it red. It also, if you only select one part, it will tell you dollars. So in this case, get all, the little dollar signs just give you an indication of how much that part costs. On
a relative scale.
On a relative scale. And also that tends to be availability. So if the part's expensive, that usually means it's not very available. They didn't make very many sets with that particular part. Because Bricklink is ultimately a garage sale of bricks, right? So it's people that have taken kits that they're taking sets they bought or pab wall stuff, and then they sell it. So we get all sorts of different ability to get that. Now, also, if you hover over it, in this case, it's telling you that that particular part in dark blue is almost $1 each. So that means they made them, they just didn't make very many of them. They probably are only in 1 or 2 kits. Recently, I had a fender that I wanted to use in a commission, and it turned out that there was only 1 set that had ever come in, and it was getting close to $2.50 a brick.
Yikes.
So again, you have to be a little careful about that.
I told you about my B-wing canopy.
Yes.
It's $10.
Oh,
$10.
But I had to get it because it's my precious B-wing.
It's your B-wing. So again, it gives you a lot of ability to build this model, to simulate the model, adjust it, check on pricing. So in this case, I can actually look at the model tab, and under model info, it now will look at this kit. Now this happens to be the whole model, which has multiple views in it. So that in this case, 173 bricks, $17, and total lots would be the type. So there are 79 different elements, and by an element, that means a color and a shape. So you can then use this to even get to the point of adding to a wanted list, and I'm logged in as my Bricklink user.
Now, Scott, before you leave that page, the other thing you can do there is if you click the headings on any of those, it'll order it according to that heading. So if you're trying to reduce the cost of your model, click on price of the part, and it'll order it as far as what are the most expensive parts. And I've used that tons of times to find out, like, oh, if I change this one part out, I can cut the entire cost of my model down by like $1.50 or $5.
Mm.
But, yeah.
And in this case, you know, the most expensive part is one that I had to have, and it, you know, there wasn't really a replacement. But at 55 cents, that's not necessarily a crazy part. And it's a newer part. I think the price will come down as it gets used more in sets. But a 1x1 snot brick hasn't been around that long. We've really only had them for a few, especially in this kind of modified plate type arrangement. You can also go to physical information. I actually am using this as I kind of finish up my my Saturn V model in version 6. You can get that overall dimensions, but I like to look at the ounces. So it can give me some indication of what the weight is of a particular thing. So now, one of the reasons that a lot of us go to Studio is for this next step, and that is you can now use this model and you can add it to a wanted list. Oh, I've got to, if you leave, this is one of my critiques of Bricklink is it is not the most, or of Studio, it's not the most stable of programs. It is known if I leave it open too long, it loses its connection.
Yes, I noticed that too.
And I leave it open a lot because I'm using it a lot. So now this will look like when it comes up. And of course, I've got with the streaming going on and everything else, it's going to be slow today. That's another thing we'll have Peter talk about. Peter has upgraded his workstation to basically a gaming computer.
So he's got everything going.
Not now.
I've been thinking about ordering a second computer just to render.
I know.
Because rendering one photo of the pad takes about an hour.
Yeah.
And
Well,
like,
that's so powerful because I just added some videos to my Etsy store, and this is the Holy Family, one of the sets. I did the animation, which if you do an animation of bricks falling down, it's really rendering 24 frames a second for how many ever seconds you decided. This didn't get done in 12 hours overnight.
Yeah.
Good grief.
I sent the IO file over to Peter, said it was less than an hour. That's how much faster his is. Okay, so now we're back. So let me go to the model info. Now, by clicking this, now this is saying because there are some custom parts, they don't exist. It'll still allow you to put a wanted list of just the parts that are available, I thought.
Are you trying to share your screen of that? Because you're not.
Oh, am I?
Are you uploading it directly through Studio, or are you just dropping the file into Bricklink?
No, I'm opening it. Okay, so it now uploaded, and it's called, in this case, it was Discovery because we worked on Discovery first. It's my favorite shuttle. And in this case, you can then proceed to verifying the items. I don't tend to do it here, but in this case, it's showing the 72 unique. I just accept this and I add it to the wanted list. Then I view it. And the nice thing is once you get that view, and of course, this is if you want to make a big mistake, have a couple hundred parts and only select how many are shown.
Yeah.
I don't know who's done that before.
I can't imagine. So here I've selected the 72 items. I can then say I want them all to be new, which I wish was a default.
Oh yeah, that bugs me too.
Now,
Yeah, I've forgotten that.
when I'm doing kits, there are always multiples. And the nice thing is you can actually then multiply that quantity.
Oh, I did not know that.
What?
I didn't know you could do this.
You're kidding.
No.
Okay.
Okay, sorry. I'm paying attention now. No.
This is good. Okay. You can multiply that quantity and apply it. It's now basically, it has multiplied all those items. Now because I have so much brick, I will print this out in a not very nice looking format just to go back and do an audit. And I find how many bricks I've got. Then I can say, okay, well, actually I've got 10 of these, so I don't need as many. So I can enter 10, save those changes. Or, you know what? I've got all the 1x3s I need. So I will unselect all of them. And I can say, well, you know what? I've got so many headlight bricks. I've got all of these. So I don't need to procure those. So I just throw them away. So this allows me to get to a list that I know that I need to buy. And without making this about Bricklink, but
It's
let's
a
go
very
ahead.
powerful tool.
why this is so important to me is I can now go to buy. I will select that, apply it. And now Bricklink is going through and finding just those bricks, all the different stores that it's available in. I have several stores that are my favorites. And so I use them all the time. They show up at the top. But then if you want to, and this is kind of the scary, you can hit auto select.
Oh, I never do that.
I do all the time. It saves me so much work.
Yeah,
I don't always use it, but it's a way to, now this is actually pretty impressive. So it found 100% of the bricks in 3 stores. And one of those stores, actually I bought from 2 of the 3 of them. So 2 of those stores are, and basically I'm at the point where I bought from a heck of a lot of the stores. So I recognize the names, but
so can I ask a question while we're here?
Yeah.
I've noticed a lot of some of the stores that come up at the top of my search list are stores that have like ridiculous prices on parts. Like they have everything I need, but it'll be like 50 cents for a 1x2 brick. What's the deal with them?
I think a couple of things happen. One is, I assume that you've got your favored clicked. Your favorite stores.
I haven't started really using favorite and not favorite yet.
I'd use that all the time because I have certain stores that are local, that have really good service, have lots of parts available, and the pricing's reasonable. I'm not always after the lowest price. I am after a reasonable price that I can get as many bricks, because I'm usually buying hundreds, not just ones. So, you know, in this case, and now that we've done that other side, the other is I put coupons. A lot of stores offer you coupons, and I've got a couple stores I buy from all the time. but frankly, I wouldn't buy from them if I wasn't getting coupons because their base price is a little higher. But once you put in a 20% discount, they're right in line with everybody else and they have lots of quantities. So to me, the way I actually do it, Joe, is I take that first list from the search. I go to my favorite stores, buy it, apply it to the wanted list, get rid of stuff I don't need. And when I get down to that last few stores, I go and I do automatic because the stores that I know perform for me, I've already procured from. So I do a hybrid method when I buy brick, and and I buy a lot. I'm buying anywhere from $2,000 to $3,000 a month dollar value of brick. So I find it really works for me. Now, the nice thing though is I've had sometimes a list comes up and it's got 30 stores. And the problem is I have selected a part that may not be that expensive, but
is not very common.
Has a bunch of them. And the problem with it is that the shipping starts to eat you alive. Mm-hmm. So there's kind of two things you start to balance when you're trying to procure brick, and that is the number of stores versus how much shipping you pay. So now in this case, this subtotal, $202, it has an estimate of shipping, whereas the cost that they show you in the model information, like down at the bottom, that does not include shipping. So you have to be a little careful about your pricing. And I've been doing this long enough now that I kind of have in my head there's somewhere between a 10% and a 15% shipping that I tend to put into it, and I'm not that far off. So the other reason that many of us like to use this program is that we like to share our builds. And so the other super connected part of this is the instructions. So by hitting the instruction button, you now go in, and this is actually a super powerful part of the process, because this is where you can put things together and test how things should be assembled. So I'm going to look at the shuttle, and that's a subassembly. So this shows the shuttle plus. By the way, did you know shortcuts don't work in this particular view?
It's really frustrating.
Very frustrating.
Also, when you're in, go ahead.
Yeah. Okay, so now I can look at just the steps to build the shuttle. And in this case, I can now step through. Is there an echo? And you can see how to build it. Now I have some empty steps, which you might think, why would you have empty steps? That's because there might be stickers involved.
Or you want to show how it looks from a different angle after you've put it together. So you make an empty step.
Actually, I know
that a lot, actually.
The reason this got kind of wonked is I'm using the one that Peter put the graphics, and in order to do the graphics, they're groups. So like that is a group. The sticker and everything is all in a combined effort because my stickers are going to go over the seams. So that's one reason why this particular model got a little. So this is kind of the first step. And this is not going to be how to do instructions, but you can then take them and create instructions. In fact, Joe's going to be spending some time on how to do instructions a little more. So the neat thing is you have a lot of ability to play with things like the how things are highlighted. So like the new bricks, in this case, I used red. Sometimes I use, because this model is all black and white. So red stood out as a better color. Frankly, I wish real Lego used that.
Oh my gosh, that is, yeah. That is my one complaint about building official Lego sets is they don't highlight where the new bricks are.
Exactly.
Which is one of the great things about this.
Yeah, and then you can export this. Now, the way I do my instructions, I tend to really focus on the steps. I then print out PNG files of each of those steps. Then I go into basically it's not a Photoshop, it's more of a publisher type program. And then I make it into my instructions. When you hear Joe speak, Joe does almost everything in here, which is very, very interesting. So let's, are you seeing any questions yet or?
Nothing in the comments.
Okay. What do you think, guys? Anything else? So the basic reason that we tend to use it is this connection all the way from designing to optimizing to pricing to procuring to developing instructions. And frankly, even if it's a mock, I'm not intending to do instructions on, I tend to actually still use the instructions to make the steps. You can do steps, in this view, you have the ability to look at different steps, but I find doing it here very cumbersome, where it's so straightforward. If you go to the instructions.
Totally agree.
And I'll just go back to this. If I want to actually move that, I just drag it and I pull it into a different step. If I want to move it all the way to the end, I can select that brick, move it, go to a specific step, and I know, I want that on step 29. So it's so powerful that then I'll use this. And then if I'm just the one building it, I'll just go here electronically, and I use this to be my guide to actually build it. So, with that,
I have a quick question or comment. When you're doing a mock by yourself and you're not planning to release it for the general public, would you just go through and just do the steps and not actually make like official instructions and edit every single page and just use the step editor?
Yes, I absolutely do. Again, that view is actually enough that now I might build it a little different, from a steps, but if you're going from the bottom up, it's pretty easy then to see what you're building on top of. It gets more complex if it's something that's got an interior, because it always shows you those clear brick, right? So, sometimes I might, but then I won't spend a lot of time. I might just go to the pages more to just get an idea of what's going on.
Doing that step editor is also a great way of catching when you've done something that isn't going to work. If you're forcing yourself to go through and build it, you'll catch something like, oh, that element is just there hanging out without being connected to anything.
Exactly.
Yeah, it helps you catch things.
Okay, looks like we have a question.
Yeah. There you go. From Jay. how do you reverse engineer to create instructions when none were created?
Oh.
It's probably a question for the engineers in the room.
Well, you do it really secretly so that the competitor doesn't know that you're stealing their product. No. It's a matter of if you have the IO file, you're one step ahead.
Mm-hmm.
It's then just a matter of create, or if you don't have the IO file, you create the model in Studio, and then you go into the instruction builder and just kind of build it in the instruction builder, in the step builder. It would basically be like, well, so I kind of did this with, here you are. This is a discontinued set from Lego.
Yep.
It's Curiosity. And I found the instructions online, and I just went through and reproduced it by grabbing every element step by step, and just building the model in Studio. And then I went through and using the instruction maker, changing the steps according to the original. And I even changed it up a little bit because sometimes Lego's instructions are really confusing. And then I used that to make a modification, a pretty decent modification for Perseverance that is landing on Mars in a couple months. And you can find that on the Bricks in Space site. I uploaded it there. And I can't take credit for it because it's just a heavy modification of an original Lego set.
Right. Well, it's a mod, right?
Yeah,
we have boxes and we have mods. So
did that answer your question, or was I just kind of talking around in circles?
We'll see if he comes back.
Basically, you build this set virtually and make the instructions that way.
Right.
I mean, from my experience, I'm terrible with steps and things like that in Studio. I just want to create my design, what I'm seeing in my head, build it, and then I'll worry about steps and instructions afterwards. So for me, my Bentley Continental I built, I did it all in Studio and built it in real life, and now I'm sat there going, actually, I might like Scott to build it and have a play with it. But I wouldn't dare dream of just sending Scott the IO file because it's a mess. So I'm kind of having to go back through it and going, right, where would I start if it was me? And basically I literally exploded my design, moved all the bricks apart, and then gone, right, well, that's the big bit. That's where we're starting. We're starting with that bit, and I'm going to add this bit here and add this brick here and this plate there. And I've just had to go through it and start again, basically.
Okay, so Jay came back. He has 4 files with only 1 step, and everything is in there.
Okay.
Yeah,
well, why don't I can talk about that a little bit.
Now, somebody is...
Don't worry about that, Scott.
Okay. So if everything is in 1 step in a Studio file, that's where you go to that first area. I'm trying to think if I've got a better...
Yeah, let me... Scott, I can talk about that a little bit.
Yeah, why don't you do that?
Okay.
But going to that first instruction, that's where, you know, the usually if you just built something, it's all going to be in one step. You go over there and then you can start to decide how you want to put it together. And it's got some great tools for moving it from one step to another, to, you know, step after. Normally I kind of think about it from the top down, you know, that's so I can select a number of bricks. So are you going to share your screen, Joe? You're going to.
Yeah, sure. Why don't you, I have two screens, so.
Share the right screen.
Screen. Yes, this one. Okay. All right. Can you?
Yeah, there you go, mate.
There you go.
Okay. So this is my Delta 4 Heavy with Parker Solar Probe. That's just a display model of Parker, and that's to scale what it looks like inside the shroud. It's just a little tiny payload. So what I'm going to do is my Delta 4 series, which you can buy the instructions for on my Etsy shop under Lego Joe Design. So what I did, my entire Delta 4 series has a common booster core right here. And for the instructions of the Heavy, I didn't put the instructions for the common booster core. That's a separate instruction set. So I just grabbed that, and there are no steps for this right here. So I made a new model.
I've purchased it.
What was that?
You said you're telling me this now after I've purchased that.
No. I mean, the common booster core has its own instructions, and then you use it for the different types of Delta 4s. I don't like the real thing. Jeez. What I'm going to do is, since this doesn't have any steps, I'm just going to go up here and hit instructions. Oh, okay. So here's the other thing, is you want to go through and save everything else that you have open. Yada, yada. Or else, I don't know what really happens. We'll get back to this one later. Okay, so I go into Instruction Maker. There are no steps. Everything is just a giant wad here in the step editor.
So it's all in the first step.
It's all in the first step. So if I go here and I say, okay, I want to take care of the RS68A main engine later. So I highlight that whole thing, click step after. I kind of want that piece in that same step, so I'll just take it and drop it in to that next step. Now you can see in step 2, everything that's in step 1 is transparent, and everything in step 2 is available. Now, okay, so the RS68A engine, it looks pretty complicated to be in one step. What I can do here is actually just highlight that whole thing, and I can go create into submodel, and I go RS68. Okay, now that it's its own submodel.
Or some of us would just have submodel 3, submodel 4.
Well, that's why I'm a good electrical engineer and you're a crappy mechanical engineer. You knew that was going to go somewhere, Scott.
I did. This is where I usually swear. So
okay. So I have now made the Aerojet Rocketdyne RS68A main engine a staged combustion. No, it's not a staged combustion cycle.
Focus.
Okay. Now I can go into that submodel and I can say, okay, this and this goes in a step after, this and this a step after. All of these I'll put in a step after. So I'm hitting Control and then selecting a part, so I can select multiple parts at a time. I put it in a step after, I grab all these ones, or I can come down here and grab them in this plane, hit step after. I'll put this, no, I want these in the step after. Okay, so now for the RS-68, the main engine, I have this in step 1, this in step 2, etc., etc. So now you can go through it and say, yeah, that shouldn't be confusing if I go through that step by step. Now, let's go to, well, I'll just use this engine as the example. So once I think I have that submodel in a good order, the parts all the parts I need in every step, I can go to page design. Now, because I put the entire stage in this first part, like I still haven't gone through all the steps for that. So, and I'm not going to, we can come back to it if we want. But here we are in the page design. You can see that the parts being shown are pretty far away. You can do all sorts of things here in the page design. My personal style is I like to put the step number in the lower right-hand corner, but that's just me. That's just that's my style. You can see it has a preview of this subassembly. Now, as far as like, okay, how do I change the view on this? If I go to the upper right-hand corner, select change step view, you can see the scale is at 41%. Well, let's see if it'll fit at 100%. Great, perfect. I can see it great. Now, if I want to move the parts list around, I can even, change how that window looks. This gets kind of janky because it wants to go to a corner, but I can put it in different corners. I can even probably, see, it'll automatically move things. I can move this around. Now this in itself, if I click on that, I can change its view. So if I, kind of want a different view on that, I can flip it, rotate it. I can, make it look however I want it to look as a preview of what you're about to build. But again, my style is I like to put the parts list there. I'll put the preview somewhere near it, and then I put the step view over there. Now, if our friend who was on the episode a couple weeks ago, Sebastian, is watching, he was actually asking about the thing I'm going to show you right now in particular. This only has 2 parts on a page, which if I were to print this out would be very wasteful. And for someone like me who's thinking about, selling these instructions as both a digital and a printable thing, I want to make it a little more efficient, a little more page efficient. When you're talking about, if I can digress for a second, let's go to my launch umbilical tower instructions, part 1 of 9, and this has 314 pages. What?
Version 4.3.1.
Exactly. Because when you have 1,200 pages of instructions, you're going to find some issues. So like you have to go through this, make sure every single thing is visible. What was I going to show on this? But when you have something this big, you have to take up the whole page with just what you're doing. If I go to maybe some later steps, so like this, I want to show 2 or 3 steps per page, and I'm only showing a few pieces per page, so it's okay if I do that.
Yeah.
So let's go back here. Shut up, Joe. How do you do that? Very easily, Joe. Go up here to change layout. If I want to put 2 steps per page, I select that, hit apply, and it'll do it. Now you can see that. What was that?
That was a general
Yeah, yes. Now I can move things around. Okay, so my parts call out is a little big for how much room I have in there. So I just click on that. I go in here. I'll usually do like 75%, or even if that's too big, I'll do 65%. Most of the time, you'll be able to see what parts you're using. That's funny. I just moved that over there without even thinking about it. Another thing I like to do that Lego and a lot of other people don't like to do, it's just the way my brain works, is I like to have some divisions in between the steps. So I'll come over here and select columns. It'll automatically put a column right there to separate the steps. Another thing, if we so you can see that default, this program will add a red outline to the new parts, which is really great, except when my LUT is mostly red and I don't need a red outline. I actually got a lot of complaints about that. I was like, okay, well, let's figure out how to change that outline color. I go over here to global style, select that. You have all kinds of things you can choose from. But the most important to me is I go down here to the new part highlight. I select that. This is how I do it. You can go in here and just select any color you want. But I know that the two colors I use the most are FF0000, which is red, or the one that I use for highlighting all the time is 00FFFFF, which is that color right there. And I up the line thickness to 3. And that's my usual style. Figure out your own style and go for it.
And you can save that style too.
Yeah, you can save the style. Unfortunately, I haven't been able to find out. I prefer to have my step number in the lower right-hand corner because I'm a neurotic nerd.
Well, you're neurotic, that's for sure.
Another thing I'll show you real quick. Sometimes rearranging where the picture is within the step can get really janky because it won't want to pay attention to where you want to put it. But most of the times it works. So one thing you can do is say, I want to have this at the same place in the page as this. So I right click on it and select align current step to previous, align to previous step image. The other thing you can do is right click on it and align to current step center. So it'll center it within the page.
Can't you also just move it and you see the ghost image?
You can move it. And those red lines you see popping up that's the center line of the page.
That's how I do it. See the ghost image there? You can snap it to that ghost image and it'll go to the previous step.
Ah, okay. I usually just right click on it and align to previous step. Now,
I didn't even know that. I didn't know that right click existed for that. So
well, and I didn't know that the ghost image was okay. There's an exception to that. If the next step is of a different style, so this one or a different layout, this one is 2 per page, this one is 1 per page. If I right click on it, I can't align to previous step image because it's a different style.
Yeah.
right.
So what I can do is go to layout, select the same layout, and oh, look, now I can do the same thing. However, I can also, hey, I've got a lot of white space in there. I can change the layout even more. I can put 3 steps to a page. At some point, you don't want to use that anymore because, your steps are too big. 6 steps per page. Now, the other thing you can do is over here on Oh, see, it did it for me automatically. Let's do this. I can select multiple pages by hitting Shift or Control and clicking on this, or actually it's just Shift. I can select multiple pages over here, and you can see right there how it stacks up pages. And then I can hit Change Layout and change all the layouts at the same time. I can do that with, I want columns in all of them. So you can do a lot of really interesting things with this.
Okay, so I think I'm trying to catch up a little on some questions. One is, Sebastian, I think you've talked to is multiple steps on one page centered a new base coordinate. I think you answered that.
Yep, got that.
I want to answer a question from John, who was on one of them. He's been doing it a long time. He started by modeling bricks in AutoCAD. Okay, that's hardcore. And then he
hey, you know what?
It works.
Raise a glass.
Yeah. And then he moved to MLCAD. And that's one thing I did want to make sure that everyone knows. We're not dissing any other platform. You know, the best simulation platform is the one that you can use, right? So each one has some advantages, disadvantages. We're just talking about Studio and why it works for us. When John asked, you know, what are some of the advantages? I kind of went through that in that really the advantage is this vertical integration to the purchase of the brick and the instruction making. If you're not doing that kind of stuff, really it doesn't matter, you know, so it's whatever makes it easier for you, right? So that's what we're all about. So so I guess if you're going to make sets, that's a good thing to do. Another question. So, and John, if you ever want a little more detail, just go ahead and message me or direct message or something like that. But is Samantha B who I think that is?
I can neither confirm nor deny that, but if you think it is, it might be who you think it is.
Okay, so my advice, and this actually answers another question because I had this would be a new user besides Samantha was, I saw it just kind of, how do you recommend moving? Oh, it was Joe. Joe asked, not you, Joe, a different Joe, how to go to LDD. I strongly still recommend, especially to like when I'm talking to somebody that's new in the hobby or is younger, I always go to LDD. LDD is a very straightforward, simple, easy program to learn, and you can build then on it. Now, the nice thing about Studio, and this is kind of that step. So now you've gotten pretty good at Studio. You've realized that, or you've gotten pretty good at LDD. You realize that there are some bricks that aren't available. You know, you've made a color combination that doesn't exist. You have gotten to a complexity that is just very difficult to really start to emulate very well. So now, how do you move then to Studio? I think you do it. I don't know about you, Joe, but I imported a lot of stuff. There was a time when I could still build faster in LDD. Then I would import it to Studio and I would do the manipulation I needed to do there. And then I go. Now, I actually did that with LDraw too, because I used LDraw some to do renderings and to do some steps. And I was using Blueprint, which is a tool that could help you make instructions. So I've kind of been to several steps. And I think like everything else, there was a certain point I had to say, No, I put LDD away and I just struggled because it is a struggle. Every new software, you know, I think that, you know, we're super users, or at least very good users, Mr. Jones. And but we don't necessarily know anything more. It's just that we've used it enough that we identify these things. But, you know, Joe's learned some things from me. I've learned some things from Joe, that it's funny how we get into how we use it, and it's just faster. I can't remember which episode, but the shortcut for setting the origin different, and we probably
I was gonna show how to do that. So
and we should get there. I use clone all the time as a shortcut. I use hide all the time as a shortcut. I just made a shortcut for releasing submodels. So shortcuts is one of those tools. I'd wait until you understand what you're shortcutting to. Otherwise, you can get yourself into trouble. So, but I guess, Samantha, what I do is I'd get LDD, play with it, start to learn it as a way to then progress. And if you have something you like, pull it into Studio and then start to mod it, because it is always easier to mod something than it is to build it new. So there is another thing you can do, and this may answer another question. Let me share my screen.
whoa.
Try building that.
Yeah.
That's all I have to say on the matter.
Oh, this is,
Now, of course,
for new users, this is your intro lesson. Build this.
well, I was going to use that to show something else, but now, of course,
Okay.
I'm trying to get back to. Okay, now it's. Well, yeah. Okay, there we go. Okay, if you go to File
Oh, you're doing this. Okay.
and you go to, where is the import official Lego set.
Yep.
Do you have a number? Throw me a number, somebody.
Damn it! I've binned all my boxes. Hang on.
Here, I got one right.
75275.
7507.
No, 75275. Will it do it?
It did it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Okay, so because this answers somebody else's question, if there is an issued set, and I don't know who does this, it must be somebody at Bricklink must put this together.
Seriously.
It may or may not be available, but in this case, it's available. God,
It's a fun set too.
okay,
Oh, look at that.
this is going to be wild.
Wait, what is it?
It's
Excessive
NASA.
forward firepower. Too late.
Yeah, I'm now importing it into my NASA. So NASA and Star Wars is now going to,
Yeah.
and look at it down here. It's showing up.
See, now you've got me wanting to import the Super Star Destroyer one.
Uh-oh.
Ooh.
Yeah, exactly.
I didn't know this existed. I might get in trouble now.
Look at
I can send you my design files if you'd like.
Man, I had all these things all set up and ready to go, Scott.
Oh, you were going to do this one?
No, that's- I'm just saying we're doing a lot of waiting for you. That's all.
Oh,
I've just made a small boo-boo. I've just kind of imported the Star Destroyer over the top of my Bentley.
Oh no.
Interesting combination.
Control Z is a wonderful.
Interesting. It's got the label is Brickset.
What do you mean?
Look at who labeled it.
Huh.
Like Brickset must do this.
Interesting.
Interesting. Very interesting. Okay, well,
Okay.
now, there's an issue here. It is not the model.
Huh.
It's all the parts.
Huh.
Hmm.
So if you wanted to get all the parts that come from that model, this is how you can then get it. Now, if you had the instructions or you downloaded the instructions, all the parts are there.
Okay.
And I think, Peter, I think it's organized by step. So you could make it yourself. So or bag.
Oh.
That's an
Oh, that would
interesting
have
way to
really
learn it.
helped. That would have really helped me with the B-wing I just did.
Then there is.
Learn-
I'm gonna now. I'm not sure it'll work here, but I'm gonna try it. Do Control Z. No, that's my shortcut. It won't get rid of it all, so it's imported. So I'd have to delete it. But okay, so that's how to import release sets. Now there are people out there that have recreated sets. And some of them are available in IO files, some are not. So you could do a Google and you might, Bricks in Space is a great example, right? There's lots of different IO models available.
Oh, yeah.
Both mocks that people have made, but also sets. So
Where everyone on that site has reproduced every single aspect of space history for the last 200 years, and so we're running out of new things to make.
we've been in space 200 years.
Sure, why not?
Okay, so I think that Mr. Sullivan, hopefully that showed you at least one way that you can import a set. Joe, hopefully I answered that one.
John says, thank you for answering his question. He's not able to interact because he's been sucked into work, but he's paying attention.
Okay, good.
Okay.
Oh, this is a good question for you, Joe. Damien, his bill of material does not save, and he's wondering, how do you get a bill of material to save to an IO file? And I've got to admit, the bill of material is the thing that
Okay. I
freaks
can.
out most of the time.
Okay. Do you want to share my screen and I'll
Yep.
show you if it'll do it? Okay. Let's exit out of this and watch. I'll have to. Okay. Okay, so here's Delta 4 Heavy. If I go up here to upload to my studio, let's see if it'll do it.
Well, now I think he's talking about in instructions.
Mm-hmm.
Oh, okay. Hold on. Why is
Well,
my
Who was that question by? Scott?
This was one of the ones that came, Damian Bailey is in one of the.
I've got all the posts open, so I'll find it.
Okay, so here's, I was going to show this. So if I go in here, if I go to, well, actually any page, but for a bill of materials, this is probably going to be the most important to do it in the last page. If I go down here and sit and hit insert page after, I have a blank page. Now I go up here to insert and I can hit bill of materials. And now it adds a bill of materials to the end of my instructions. So if that's what you're asking, how to add a bill of materials to your instructions, that's how you do it.
Why don't you try saving that and then come back in?
Yeah, it can mess up sometimes.
Exactly.
If you change a single thing on your model, sometimes even a view, it will get rid of this, but the blank pages will stay.
Yes.
And so you might have to go in here and like there'll be a bunch of blank pages and you just have to go delete page and then delete. So don't add those until the very end, until you're fully satisfied with your model. The add page thing is also something I do when, so insert page before, I have a blank page and now I can go insert image of a Delta 4 Heavy. Now I have an image at the beginning of my instructions. Or I will go into Microsoft Visio, I will design my front page, export it as a PD or a JPEG, and then drop it in the instructions just like that. And that's how I get my, the front pages on my instructions.
Oh, you do that through Studio?
Yeah, I know he does.
When I print out my final thing, I'm just exporting it from Studio. So I do all my graphics and everything in another program, export it as a picture, and then drop it into this.
Whereas I go a little different. I take each step, make it an image, then I go outside to make my instructions. So it's just a different. And I finally purchased Affinity, which is, I think it's a UK version of Photoshop. But it's very reasonably priced. The updates are free so far. I haven't been asked for a major update. I did buy both photo and publisher. And they were like less than $50. Whereas if you buy the Adobe,
it's really expensive.
That's a lot.
So another couple tools I want to point out here real quick, especially if you have an axle. I really don't like how they don't have something like, hey, this is a 8L long axle. You can actually come in here and put a one-to-one size guide so that if you were to print this out, that's how long the axle should be. And it's a 10L axle. I rarely use that. You can also put a flip symbol in here. Like if you flipped the model around. Mr. B is always haranguing me for forgetting to put rotation symbols when I'm
as he should.
As he should. Also, you can do neat things like insert an arrow. I do this all the time to help, like, say, all right, you have this part and it needs to be, placed on like this. You can change the same way you can change the color of the arrow. You can change the size of the arrow. And you can just draw things if you get rid of the arrow tip on the end. You can do all kinds of things in this program. Like if I wanted to say, like there's a part in my Skylab instructions where I say, the solar panel needs to be 90 degrees compared to the hull. So I did this. I drew that, and then I put let's insert something else. Let's insert text. say 90 degrees. I actually had to go to Word to get the degree symbol, but you know,
Right.
you can do all kinds of notes, and I end up, I don't work for Lego. I'm here to try to make it as easy as possible for someone who's doing who's building my kit. And I'm an engineer, so over explanations are my job. So I'll put notes and suggestions and things like that all through my instructions.
But just to back up, Damien also asked about copying info from instructions to another file. You can't really copy, like you would a cut and paste kind of thing. But really, the trick is going and saving profiles. And, if you have a particular profile for the way you like things laid out, not so much position, but sizes and fonts and that kind of stuff, that you can all do with the global style and by saving styles. So if you want to show that a little bit.
I don't do that very much.
Here, I'll show.
Yeah, if you go to global style, you can save this style as
yeah. And because I'm doing like I'm doing kit, so I may only have an 8.5 by 11, and I want a cover on one, so it folds into basically 12 panels, of which one is a title, one is a disclaimer. So I have 10 panels that I can have my instructions in. I'll show you. Excuse me.
Bless you.
Let me.
So the other thing is that like you only have two choices for exporting, and that's as PDF or a PNG.
Yep.
So if you want to use it in another program, you kind of have to be able to manipulate either a PDF or a PNG,
yep.
A picture. But when you export as PNG, have a whole folder ready because it'll make a single picture for every single step.
Page.
Yeah.
Also know that you really want to end up with at least 300 dots per inch resolution.
DPI, yeah.
Good resolution for printing. I tend to try and be closer to 400 dots per inch, just because then if I go out and export it to 300, it just looks a little better. So let me go ahead. I'm going to share my screen.
Can I show? Okay.
You can, but I want to answer another question because she actually sent me her folder. So Astrid Burke, who I don't know if she's watching right now or not, she talked about how to turn a hinge plate. And this is a very powerful tool. In LDD has it, but also, and I use this quite a bit because I've got to position things in weird ways. And this is her file. It's called Croissant, and now I know why. But she said that she couldn't get the roof, and so I thought I'd show how you go about do this. And I can tell, this, she's got some icicles, she's got some other stuff on that lid, and the problem really comes down to how do you select everything? Well, this is where submodels really come in nicely. I just made a submodel. She hadn't used any submodels, and the way you can do that is I tend to get it as close as I can. There, I'm going to select too many. And you don't have to include the whole thing in Studio, which sometimes you just have to be able to touch it.
Yeah.
So there I got most things, but here's a few that it didn't get. Looks like a couple of the lights. So now that I have everything selected, make sure your cursor is on the blue selected, right click. Actually, you can just go down to create and do a submodel. And I'm going to do submodel group 2. Now,
And name your submodel something that you'll remember or that's self-descriptive.
there's only 2.
I used to just do numbers, and then I was just like,
Where's
I don't
his
know.
mute? Can I mute him? Yeah. Okay. So then, now that you want to rotate it, select it, you'll see the little, I don't know what that is. Is it it looks like a tuning fork to me, but I don't know what it's supposed to be, a wrench?
Spanner.
But
Yeah, a wrench. Or in English, or in Britain, a spanner.
Spanner. So when you hover over it, you get 2 little indicators. One is a rotation mark. The other one is XYZ. You can, by hitting the XYZ, it now tells you where it is in space, the model space. I still have no clue what those numbers mean.
Yeah, neither do I. But you can click on the numbers and manipulate them very finely if you
And
want.
it's like, but it's like not plates, it's not bricks, it's not millimeters. I don't know what it is. So
I wonder if it's pixels.
Whoa.
Oh,
That would
That
be insane.
that would be the most logical-ish. But anyway, it can allow you you got to get pretty far into it. But sometimes I've used it to make sure I center a model. Then I can go vertically. But in this case, I'm not going to use that one. So I'll get out of that. Click it again. I want the rotation. The neat thing about Studio, it will only show you the rotation that works. So in this case, the only rotation is that hinge brick. Now, if you click on that, you can either, use your left click to move it to whatever angle you'd like it to be at, or you can click on it again, and you could say, I want it to be 35 degrees. Now, I see a problem here in that the roof is not necessarily going to be aligned. I'm guessing that I'm going to need to, okay, so I can open this submodel and view it. And what I'm now going to do is I am going to cut that part out, return to the main menu, paste it back in its position, select that. Actually, I'm going to change that rotation to 45. That would be what, 315? Now, since I know the roof isn't going to interact, it is going to hit the wrong place, I can now move this down. And if you can't get it to hit on something, you just have to keep moving it around. Come on.
Yeah, sometimes the snap to function is not the greatest in the world.
I also see a problem here. I will hit collisions. There's all sorts of collisions. Now I have a shortcut that allows me to move. I'm not quite sure what I did to those.
Are those hidden?
Oh, no, they're just not placed directly. Oh, they're placed over each other.
Wait, you can.
No, there's an extra there.
Okay, I have a question.
There we go. That's what's.
What's up?
You did a right click on the submodel and clicked view.
Yeah.
For me, it won't show up when I do that. I have to go to the step list on the right, then do it.
Really?
Can't do it from the editor.
Not the
Yeah,
right.
Yeah, like when I.
So I actually have a shortcut so that when I click on something, when I hit Q, it shows only that submodel. That's one of the shortcuts I.
Like when you highlight a submodel, you hit Q and
it just gets rid of everything else. It hides everything else except for that thing that I have selected. It doesn't even have to be a submodel. It can just be a group of.
Now you notice how bad those studs look.
Yeah.
Joe and Mr. B will understand why they look so bad.
Why?
Because I'm working with really big models and I turn the render as low as possible so I can move things around and work with them.
Oh.
So if you're not, and you can do that in in preferences, appearance, and this render quality isn't renders that it makes. This is render just native, what it's showing you. And I always turn it way down low just because I want to be able to move around and that kind of stuff.
I didn't know that.
Uh-oh. You just revolutionized Mr. B's life.
You can also turn up the frame rate, the max frame rate there, which also helps with the editing, working in the editor.
Maybe my TARDIS won't crash now.
Oh, go to 60?
Mm-hmm.
What is that saying?
It caps your frame rate. It opens the cap of your frame rate.
Oh, okay. I'm going to try that now. Okay. So there are a couple other issues, Astrid, that you're going to have to deal with. But from a rotation standpoint, hopefully you've seen that now you can just select the part.
You just blew Sam B's mind.
What?
He's crying.
Hang on, I gotta open the pad up real quick. See how much better this is.
Okay, well, he's experimenting with that. Can I show one more thing?
Okay. So Astrid, I will also DM you this. I may play with it a little more and get it back to you. So with that, okay.
And then we got to see it, Sam, when you're done. Okay, I just want to show a couple things real quick. While we were talking about switching from LDD to this, probably the biggest frustration, the number one frustration I've heard from a whole lot of people is that LDD had a really great way to just center the camera on something. Like, if I have this model and I want to work just on the engine down there, I mean, how do I see it without moving my point of view? First of all, I use the third click on my mouse to do that. But another great way, go up here to Edit. Hope everyone's paying attention. Edit, Preferences, Shortcuts, View, and if you'll see Set as Origin, there usually isn't anything there. I have it set to the Z key. Okay?
Which is
now
weird.
I can zoom out. I can set my origin to anywhere on that model I want to. Now, this is my biggest number one frustration with Studio. If I go into and edit a submodel, so now I'm in this submodel and I try to center, it centers on something way out there. It doesn't center on the place that I told it to center.
And I have no clue what it thinks it's centering to.
What was that?
And I have no clue what it's centering it to.
I don't know what it's centering to. So you have to leave the submodel, center it, go back into it, and now you're centered on that spot.
I thought they fixed that.
Yeah, I was going to say, I don't have that issue. Maybe it's just because me and Mr. B are on Macs and you guys are on Windows. I don't know.
Oh, that can be true.
Man, if this weren't a family friendly, yeah, it still doesn't.
Got a collision.
Yep. Anyway, so that was one thing I wanted to show. The other thing, Mr. B, what I was doing, shortcuts, view, where is it? Huh.
Models.
Q. Okay. Show only selected bricks. I selected that as Q. So if you select a submodel or a single brick or any group of bricks, it'll do that. The other one I did, and I'm not going to go searching for it, is I did a shortcut to type of brick. If I select T, I can select that type. Now, the other way you can do it, up here in the upper left-hand corner, hit select. You can go by color, everything of that color, or by type and color, so only that type in that color. You can. There are so many interesting tools. I don't know what does by connected do. Oh, everything connected to it. Imagine that. Okay. I think that was everything I wanted to show about Instruction Maker, unless anyone else has questions on it. Basically, sorry, go ahead.
I have one comment, or just as a tidbit of information. If you have a Mac, you won't be able to export instructions, or you get this weird ghost image that you can't get rid of for some reason. Just as an FYI.
Yeah.
They know it's a problem. I don't know if they can fix it or not.
I wanted to show a couple.
So, like,
really, right now, Joe is just showing off.
Yeah, so this is okay. If you buy any of my instructions, you will see how neurotic I am, because all through the instructions, like, this is why I use this tool. Okay, here's a great example of something you can do. A buffer exchange here allows you to show how parts fit together, and it'll automatically add an arrow.
Wait a minute.
And so I'll add a commentary like left booster, right booster, so you don't get.
Back up. How do you do that?
What?
How do you do that?
It's a secret. I'm not gonna. Okay, so in this step before, I have, these panels. Make 4 of these panels. Step before that, make the nose cone. And then in this step, they're all together. Like, we're putting them all together.
Yep.
If I have a sub-assembly that I'm adding, and it has to be a sub-assembly, it can't be a single part. If I click on that sub-assembly, I can go up here and hit Activate Buffer Exchange, and then I can move that sub-assembly, and it'll automatically generate an arrow. And of course, the arrow is black, so I'll do my favorite colors to put things in and make it more visible. You can't really like grab it and move it around really quick. But you can do these. You can use these arrows.
That is awesome.
Yeah.
You've blown Scott's mind.
Yeah.
I thought I was trying to do that earlier. This entire time I've been working on my Skylab stuff, but it wasn't. It was moving the entire submodel, not just the one part.
Well, it has to be the submodel.
Well, I mean, like I
So-
had a submodel that was going to the entire model, and it wouldn't allow me to move just the submodel. It was taking all of it at once.
And sometimes it'll do that. So the other trick is, say it's automatically moving it in a direction you don't like, the opposite direction you want, like here. Like, how do I like to adjust that? You go in here and use this. You use the XYZ coordinates. Where was it? 140. But also, if it's going completely the wrong direction, just add a negative in front.
Oh, there you go. Merge.
So try doing that, because yes, sometimes it'll move the model you're attaching it to, and sometimes it'll just move the subassembly. Try using negatives in front of it, and the arrow is automatically populated, but you can manually switch it around.
Okay,
So-
I'm going to.
So there's buffer exchange, but I just wanted to.
Yeah, no, that's awesome.
So, yeah, I taught you guys something.
You did.
But like, come on, buddy. I just wanted to show one simple thing.
Scott, I just want to say thank you for that render quality little tidbit.
I thought it was on one of these streams. I could swear that we've talked about that before. Because with the Saturn V, I had to figure something out. So, are you done, Joe? Can I show something?
Yeah, no, I'm done.
Okay.
I was just trying to show that, like, there are a whole bunch of other things you can do with the instructions. And basically, I learned the instructions by making, thousands of pages of instructions with my LUT.
I'm looking a little closely here. I should turn on lights.
And there's no good manual for this out there in the world, right?
No.
Nope.
Yeah.
No.
Yeah, you just kind of have to play around with things, and that's the thing. If any of you take anything out of this, it's just play around with it. It's really robust. It's got a lot of options.
Or come on our stream. Who knows? You'll. I did want what I wanted to answer. I started this answer, but I wanted to go a little farther. Petter, Petter, that would be a European Lerdal. He asked about selecting only known colors of a brick. And there's two things to remember. One is in the color palette, make sure that you've clicked that hide unavailable colors. The second is you can then select any element. Let me just, first I'll turn the collisions. Let's take the croissant. Once I click on it, it is now telling us these are the only colors that particular part comes in. Let's see, double, that's almost $1 each. $1 each. 26 cents. So it must have come mostly in the dark orange.
I can't imagine a purple croissant.
No. Now this is kind of another quirk. Croissants never came in rubber. Okay, they never came, and yet rubber colors.
Rubber colors.
The only thing I figured out is if you select that rubber color, you'll get that color, and when you render it, it looks like like a rubberized surface, because you can do the same thing with tires. You can use black or rubber black, and
Does it
black
make it really like?
is form plastic.
Is it just like matte, like a matte color instead of
Yeah.
shiny?
Yeah.
Clever.
Okay, now another super powerful thing, and I use this all the time when I'm doing commissions, because usually they've got a price target they've got to get to. Let's say I would like to change the color of this upper part. So if I select, again, doing control, let me get a few more. I'll even include those hinges and that. Well, actually, let me release this one.
We need to have a like waiting for Scott.
Oh, shut up.
Hey, I can make that.
Hang on, we're meant to have a little jingle anyway.
Okay, now I've selected slopes, I've selected bricks, I've selected plates, I've selected a hinge part. Now, if you go up to, they're all blue, and if you hit that down button, now it'll show you all the colors that all those parts come in. So you want that all to be lime, you can actually get lime. If you want them all to be dark red, you can get those all in dark red. Now, that doesn't mean necessarily that that's going to cost less or more. So often what I'll do is I'll now take this and I use my shortcut to clone it. Now, if you highlight it, except I got to hide my little, hide that. That's a little pricey, 18 bucks.
Oof.
Yeah.
Pick a different color.
Now I'll go blue, and it's $1.60. So this connection into the database of Bricklink is super, super powerful. You know, that really allows us to do that. So that, Petter, I hope that answered your question.
I have
Go ahead.
I think this came up not too long ago on the Bricks in Space Facebook page. Is there a way for you to set like those parts you just selected, make them pink, but have Bricklink read it as it can be any color of brick that I just have it be the cheapest and have it random. If that makes sense.
Yeah, I see what you're saying. And the way I've done that in the past is I've actually had to go into my wanted list on Bricklink and had to re-add that part as unspecified color and then delete the original. And that's and if I like a filler brick, like a structural brick, yeah, I'll have to go in there, do that, and also make sure it can be any, like used or new. That's the only way I know how to do it, is to actually manipulate the parts list itself in Bricklink.
So that's a Bricklink problem, not a studio thing.
Yeah, I mean, okay, if you're looking for the cheapest one of that brick, I would select it and go into the prices and just look at which ones are the cheapest according to what Bricklink says. You know, anytime you click on a brick, it'll tell you the average cost. So, I mean, that's hide on available colors is really great. And then you can go in and just kind of test different colors to find the cheapest one. There's really, I don't know of an automatic way of doing it.
I've done this slow. Yeah, I don't know of any automatic way. And then I just hover and I can see real quick what the pricing is.
Oh,
because
yes.
the double, you know, again, it's always relative. They might all be single dollars, but that's relative to $1 each. This was another question of what was it? Looking for it.
Yeah, we should get to the last questions. Sorry.
Oh yeah,
Sam, that's your job.
Sean McKinney asked, "Can you set up the workplace differently? Like they specifically wanted the brick selector at the bottom. I've never done that."
Yes, you can, and I can't remember how to do it. It's you.
Oh, mine's at the bottom.
Yeah, how do you do that?
Here, did you want to share, Mr. B?
Yeah, hang on. I closed my
Oh.
studio because 39A kind of freaked it out.
The funny thing is it freaks a lot of people out the first time they see it.
That's an understandable response.
Now under view, it's got viewport. I've never added a viewport. Ooh.
Oh, viewport is a very interesting tool. Mm-hmm.
Oh my! Wait, hold on.
Here's an idea I've been playing with. If you have a second screen, have viewport on second screen and record that screen while you edit in a different window to do like time lapse while you're building something.
That's clever.
I've been playing around with that.
I've also just found that you can
Damn it, Sam, why would you tell me about that? Sorry. Go ahead.
Just found you can do building together. So you can invite someone. I could invite you, Joe, to come and build on my TARDIS.
No kidding.
Holy.
Yeah, so if you go to the Bricklink menu and then hit build together, you can host sessions and you can join someone's session.
No way.
Yep. So I could, if I put a password on mine of something really crazy, I can host a session. If you all look in the private chat, my ID is. I don't want everybody to look at my TARDIS. And the password is.
Okay, so how did you get that down at the bottom?
I'm not exactly sure. I know I can hide it and get rid of it, but it's always been here.
Yeah, and I've always had mine on the side. Huh. Maybe this is something for next time.
Yeah, I guess I don't know.
Or I'm sorry.
Sam, you're on a map.
Here you go. Here you go. Building palette,
Oh.
horizontal or vertical. Now it's over here. So that's in your preferences and appearance.
So
Ah.
you can't really change it all that much.
Mm-mm.
No, it's not like you can drag and drop it or anything like that.
Yeah, it's not like as configurable as like an Adobe program or something.
Yeah.
Right.
Nope, this makes me feel uncomfortable. I'm going back to on the left-hand side.
Is it stressing you out?
Ah.
Okay, we got 5 minutes. Here's one more from Sean.
Okay.
Blocking a base plate and layers so they don't move.
Say that again.
Lock base plates and layers, quote unquote, so they don't move.
Oh.
Oh.
I can show that since I have it up.
Okay.
Once this loads. It'll be over here.
Look at that tiny little Skylab. So small.
Behave, Joe. Be nice.
Just kidding.
So mean. It's not loading. It'll be over here in your. It'll show you your little steps, and you can hit. There's a lock. You can click, and it'll lock it in place.
Yeah, I've seen that. Let me see if I can find something that
Yeah,
you can.
here we go. Oh, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, that's what that does.
That's delete, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's the
No,
trash
we don't want that one. So maybe you can't lock it. I thought you could. That's description. Oh, here it is. So once you're actually on your submodel, not your step.
Okay. So it's got to be a submodel. And then if you lock it, what's that mean?
Wait, no, that's for all the steps in between that, inside of that submodel. Yeah, I don't know. Maybe you can't lock anything in place. Like in
We do some research on that. Huh.
Now there is a way I have to do this every so often. It's not like if you are here, let me just share mine a minute. Like if I want to edit it, but I need to know what the other bricks around it are, by just hitting edit, it turns everything off and you can at least see where something is. The only thing is it doesn't really snap to those bricks. It snaps to the bricks in the sub, but it just kind of allows you to see how to connect or how it's getting in there, because you can still get in trouble. But I don't know that that's answering his question.
Yeah, that would be a nice thing to like lock things into place so you don't accidentally move it.
screw stuff up.
Yeah. Huh.
Some of that's submodels. If you build the submodel, you might move the submodel, but at least it would be nice. You know, a nice feature would be is if you could say, I don't want to select this part. I'd still like to be able to snap to it. But if I am selecting, it'd be nice if it wouldn't select it, which would be the same as locking it in place.
Like
Okay.
if you had,
yeah. We're coming into a couple minutes. It's been a lot of fun. I've learned some new things, which is great. It's always great. Hopefully, I think Joe learned a couple things. Mr. B, I'm glad you learned my little trick. So hopefully that helps you.
I hope so.
We will definitely do this again. There's some that we didn't get to. Sebastian, we didn't get to the lighting positions, but I think we're going to wait till Peter.
Yeah, I got questions about that too.
Me too.
Yeah.
So again, once we announce the next session, we'll certainly want to get your questions, and we will try to answer them as best we can. And hopefully you've enjoyed this, and come back, come join the fun at some point, and we'd love to have you. So thanks everybody, and we will see you in the next episode.